coming after me. Y'all favorite came after me. My fans up and them bands up, bring my fam up. The mentality, these niggas be faking. The mentality, these niggas be hating. The mentality.
Alright, so as always, shout out to you all who got the top comments on the last video, man. You all left some amazing comments, and shout out to you all for starting these great conversations. If you would like to be featured on the channel in the next video, make sure you drop a thumbs up on the video and comment down below. Comment something very thoughtful and just start a conversation in the comment section. That's all you have to do. But I want to give a huge shout out to Prophecy Mobile Legends, man. You left an amazing comment, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm assuming he's a mythical player. He's a top global player for a few heroes, he says, and he left an amazing comment. Like, from his comment, I was able to tell that he's capable of actually understanding a lot. He's a very smart person, and he disagreed with me. He disagreed with me, but he took the time to explain why, and he actually wrote a paragraph explaining why he disagreed with me. So that's on the screen here. You can read this, pause this for yourself, because I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I'm just going to go over a few of his most important points, basically. And I think that this is a very important topic because it talks about meta, and a meta is kind of a difficult thing to understand. A lot of people don't really understand the meta and stuff like that, so hopefully this video helps out, man. So going over some of his points, he said that the meta is overrated. He said experienced heroes versus inexperienced heroes would have a different outcome, and also he gave an example with Alucard that I want to talk about when it comes to crowd control, and that told me that he knows the difference between right and wrong. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So starting off at his first point, the meta is overrated. I definitely agree with that, man. I like your mindset. I like the way that you think, okay, everybody's doing one thing, but is it possible to do the other thing? That's the thought process that I like to see, honestly, because that's how I actually got into YouTube, got into gaming, became a programmer and stuff like that. I saw everybody doing normal stuff, but I never really wanted to be normal. I wanted to do something that I was more passionate about. So the fact that the meta can be overrated, in your opinion, I love that type of attitude. But I feel like while the meta can be kind of annoying, the meta just is what it is, honestly. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. I'm going to get into that and really explain how the meta just isn't changed, because it seems like you think that basically when it comes down to the meta, it's basically whoever you're using for that game, and the meta just switches back and forth each game. That's an interesting way to look at it, but I would have to disagree with that. I don't think it just switches back and forth, but we're going to get into that. But let's talk about the experienced hero versus the inexperienced hero. He made a point that said a good Minotaur is really valuable to a team as opposed to a bad Minotaur is not. And one thing that you have to understand is when I say that a hero is not necessarily in the meta right now, it's not taking anything away from that hero. That hero is absolutely amazing, but you have to look at the time frame from when that hero was first released and what's changed since that hero was released. So when it comes to Minotaur, Hylos has been released. This new Akai has been released. Who else has been released? Yeah, I said Hylos already. Grok has been released. Literally, when Minotaur was at his prime, none of these other tanks existed. Johnson didn't even exist either. So that's why Minotaur, that's why the meta has kind of shifted away from Minotaur, because all of those other tanks didn't even exist, and these tanks have stuns, they have crowd control, they have an insane amount of skills that really adds a different perspective to the game. It brings a difference to the game, basically. So when it comes to experienced and inexperienced, yes, obviously a better player will play a tank better than the other players, but let's put two different heroes, let's put two people who are at the exact same level, a god Minotaur versus a god Hylos. Who does more for their team? Hylos doesn't really have to wait for a rage meter to get full. Hylos can go in, damage the whole team from the start, and he can stun someone. So if he focuses the highest damage dealer on that team, he can stun the crap out of them. So when you think of it that way, Hylos can at any moment just go in and attack the strongest person. Minotaur can't do that. He gotta, oh wait, let me take a few hits first. Let me go slap this minion a few times. Like, he gotta fight to become strong. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of difficult to kind of compare him to these heroes who come ready for action and ready for war, and then you have a hero who has to go slap around minions, beat up jungle monsters, go bully everybody, and then he's finally mad enough to, yeah, let me finally come and do something. Bro, Hylos done took out your whole team by the time you just got strong enough to get into the fight. You're not even in the game, coach. So yeah, if you see what I'm saying, like, if it's two players at the same skill level, Hylos is just a better hero than Minotaur is, and you can basically kind of go through every single tank and kind of see how they would be a little bit better than Minotaur. So that was basically my only point when I was bringing up how he wasn't the best hero. And also you brought up an example with Alucard, and this was a really interesting example. You said the meta kind of shifts every single game. One game it might not be good to use Alucard because they have 4 heroes with crowd control, but one game they might not have any heroes with crowd control, and Alucard would be a complete beast. I agree with that, but that doesn't mean the meta changed because no one is using crowd control heroes. The meta is still the same. The people who are playing just chose not to use meta heroes, so the meta isn't what changes. You're just smart enough to know when and when not to use different heroes. That comes from experience. That comes from really having a deep understanding of the game. A lot of heroes, they won't look on the other team, see a Fanny, and be like, oh no, I'm not picking Layla because they have a Fanny. I can't run, I can't escape. A lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people don't know to think like that. Like, you gotta understand that everyone isn't like super nerd about Mobile Legends like we are. We just know the deep, in-depth, nitty-gritty about the game. Some people just play it casually, so they never actually learn what counter picking is and stuff like that. So I definitely get your point when you say crowd control versus non-crowd control, but at the same time, you're just like really smart. You're smart enough to know the difference between when to use a hero and when not to, but that doesn't mean the meta changes. So let's actually get into how the meta is formed. So this is actually a very interesting topic in my opinion, how the meta is formed, because I actually had to think about this and think to myself like, how does the meta come about? It's not like we just sitting around making stuff up and that's how the meta comes. And why doesn't it change just by, like, if someone doesn't, like, I thought about what you said, does it flip-flop between each game? I'm like, that kind of makes sense. Basically, the way that the meta is actually formed, it's like when heroes release. It's from when heroes are released. It has to do with the YouTube and the streaming community, and that's basically the way that the meta is formed. So think about it this way. Xylong, this might be, if you're newer to the game and you haven't been here for like a year or something like that, you might not know this, but Xylong was one of the best heroes in Mobile Legends history. He was one of the strongest heroes in the game. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not joking right now or anything. Xylong was literally one of the best. And that's back when his name was Yun Zhao. Like, a lot of you all might not know that. My man's used to be Yun Zhao. But yeah, Xylong, he was one of the best in the game. But then what happened? Here comes Ruby. Then what? Here comes Alpha. Then what? Here comes Cyclops. You get what I'm saying? So he was one of the best in the game, and he was basically the meta because these other heroes didn't exist. Then when Ruby came, the meta kind of shifted. It's like, okay, she has stuns, she has crowd control, so it's shifting away from Xylong a little bit. But even still, it's not enough heroes in the game for everybody to have stuns. Like, all those heroes didn't have stuns, and everyone just wasn't using Ruby, so Xylong could still survive. Then Alpha gets released. More crowd control. Well, actually, I'm not sure if I'm getting the order right. It's been a while. I don't know who was released first, but you all get the example. Alpha was released. That's even more crowd control. So if you got Ruby and Alpha on a team, how can Xylong survive? Then Cyclops was released. On top of that, and you all remember how powerful Cyclops was when he first came out. This was before Cyclops got nerfed. He had that stun. Like, what are you gonna do? Then Hylos got released. Hylos has been released. So many heroes got released since Xylong was great, and that's kind of what shifts the meta. So it's not necessarily just whoever plays a certain hero each game. Xylong, like, the meta is decided by the heroes that's currently in the game. When it wasn't heroes that could really just shut down Xylong easily, then of course he was the meta. But then they released all these new heroes with a bunch of crowd control, and that kind of became the meta because that's the heroes that Mobile Legends are releasing. They're choosing to release these type of heroes, and that's what's kind of making the meta go towards crowd control type of meta. So when Mobile Legends was just a small pond, Xylong was one of the best. It's the same thing with Minotaur. Before they released all these other tanks, because Minotaur, it was like what? Minotaur, it was Tigreal. Wasn't those like the only freaking tanks? It was like 2 tanks. I think those were the only 2. And you used either one or the other. And then Tigreal had like a super ultimate, so nobody could ever escape Tigreal. I think Tigreal still needs some work, low-key, but anyway, it was between those 2. It was like between Tigreal and Minotaur if you wanted to be a tank. I remember back when nobody used to use supports because there wasn't no support heroes to use. So Mobile Legends used to be a small pond, and that's why some of these heroes were strong during their time. Then a bigger pool of heroes came out. They started releasing a bunch of new heroes, and some of the older heroes kind of got left behind. So I feel like that's what kind of shifts the meta. It's not anything we do. It's not like it switches every game. The meta shifts with every single hero that's released. It shifts a little bit. Like, think about Hanabi and how Hanabi is going to affect the meta. You have all these crowd control heroes. Now you have an ADC who's capable of not getting hit with crowd control. So that's kind of going to move the meta back away from crowd control heroes. heroes, because if they keep releasing heroes that crowd control don't affect them, then the meta is going to be those heroes that you can't use crowd control on. Then who's going to come back into the meta? Xylong and all the people who don't have crowd control, because people aren't going to waste their time using crowd control heroes all the time if you have a hero that just don't get affected by crowd control. So that the meta is kind of shifting as it is already. I hope you all understand what I'm saying right now. The meta shifts. It shifts with the heroes that come out, and Hanabi is going to be one of these points in time where the meta starts to shift, especially if they keep releasing heroes who can't get hit with crowd control. And also the YouTube community and the streaming community has a lot to do with the meta as well. I feel like people watch people like me, and people watch some of the best players in the world, and they learn different things about heroes, and they kind of build trust when it comes to watching certain people, and they learn things about heroes that they didn't know. Like for instance, a lot of the combos and stuff for Kagura you all learn from watching other people, and then when I got into a stream, you all taught me how, like you all literally taught me how to use Kagura. Like when I picked Kagura one day, I said, how do I do this? What do I do? What's the combos? Like how do you do all that? You all told me that, and a lot of you all learned that from watching other people, and that's how you learn how to play Kagura. So I feel like basically you learn what a hero is capable of by watching someone really good with that hero, so you know exactly how strong that hero can be, and when you compare that to the other heroes, you know that that hero, even as strong as he is, he can never match up. Like Xylong, I doubt anyone would say that Xylong can really match up against like one of the strongest heroes. I don't know, like maybe Roger. I don't know, maybe Roger does a little bit more damage. Maybe Lancelot, Gaijin. It's kind of hard to believe Xylong could match up against, or even a Ruby. Ruby has too much heals. She has too much heals. She has too many stuns and stuff like that. So I've seen some of the best players in the world use Xylong and not be able to do much. Like I've seen Just No Limits and Aura tried, like they were literally on a tear, destroying people with every single hero that they were using while they were streaming, and then they picked Xylong. They both just started doing bad when they used Xylong. Obviously it was at different times, different games, but you get what I'm saying. Like most of the time you see Xylong, he's not doing too well no matter whose hands he's in, and there's no mistaking how good Jess is, and no mistaking how good Aura is. So that's pretty much it, man. I just wanted to really explain this and break this down once again, bro. Thanks for your comment, and if you have something that you have to say, if you have like a disagreement or something, make sure you write that in the comment section down below. I definitely love comments like this. I love to hear what you all have to say, and I love to kind of give my opinion on it. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure you drop that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Peace out, yo.
Don't you go getting married, don't you go getting engaged. I know you're getting older, don't have no time to waste. I shouldn't be much longer, but you shouldn't have to wait. Can't lose you, can't help it, I'm so sorry, I'm so selfish. I've been chillin' in the city when the money's so high and the girls get down.